How y'all doing? We're back for another episode of Then and Now. I'm back joined by my co-host, Mr. King of the Comments, Ethan Murphy. How you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing, bro? How you doing?
End of the week, so I'm a lot better now. A
Yeah,
lot better.
yeah. Yes, right. This week, I don't know what's up with this week. This week is just like, how can we torture?
It's been
Yeah.
hell, but we ended off with a good day.
Yes.
Miss, we are joined by a special guest, Miss Felicia Ink Queen Ferguson, cosplayer extraordinaire. How you doing, Felicia?
Pretty good, pretty good. Excited to be here.
Great. We're glad to have you. We know
Absolutely.
you're a little shy on camera, but we're glad you're here for the discussion for the topics we have today. We thought it'd be great to have somebody like you, of your caliber, somebody we respect highly in your opinions, to be here to talk about this stuff and get your perspective on stuff.
Definitely.
Got you. So to kick it off real quick, keep things rolling with our first question, Felicia, kind of a light thing. We're kind of interested in your origin when it comes to being a blerd. Like, what were some of the first media things, whether it be anime, manga, something that kind of got you into this nerd stuff in general?
I feel like it's pretty similar to most people. Toonami, Adult Swim, just watching a bunch of Sailor Moon. I think that was the first manga I ever read as well.
Yeah.
That Tenchi Muyo. I can't think of them. Oh my goodness. It was just so many. Toonami, basically.
Right.
So
right.
what was it about? What do you think it was about that stuff in particular that kind of caught your eye? Or was that the only channels you had to watch?
I think it was just the different vibe that it gave off. It covered more adult topics than the average cartoon that we're used to watching.
Mm-hmm.
That and just the art style being totally different.
That's funny because me and Ethan, for I think one of our first episodes, we spoke on how kids kind of flock to more complex stories or topics when it comes to kind of like stuff being darker, and that's like the kind of like the comics or the cartoons that kind of last over time. Stuff like the DCAU, stuff like that, where it's like it covers adult content or like adult jokes or adult themes while also being like children themed.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And Sailor Moon in particular, like that's one of those like the biggest gateway anime crossovers ever. Like there's so many people that like that's what it was. That was like one of their first, either the anime itself, or like you said, the manga that you read a lot, or the toys even. I mean, it's a huge gateway for for men and women.
I never watched it. What
You never saw it?
Wow.
I never. I know a lot about it through like everybody like the Goku versus or whatever. That's like the immediate trump card people throw on Goku and Sailor Moon. So I'm just like, oh, they got to be OD in that show.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
that's
they are. Sailor Moon is really underrated.
Yeah, it was. I remember about Sailor Moon was how the American version they tried to make the two of the characters that were females that were lovers. They tried to make them cousins to get around the idea of a same sex like a romance. And it was like, what?
I actually was talking about that with somebody earlier, and it was just like, as a kid, I did not question it at all.
No, as a kid, you don't. Yeah. But if you go watch it now at all, it's like, what's up with this? It doesn't make sense. It's weird what these two cousins are doing with each other. It's like it's even weirder than how Sanji has the popsicle in his mouth or the lollipop in his mouth instead of a cigarette. It's like, what are you doing, censors? So, yeah,
that's funny to me. We know the writers of that show from Alabama. Okay,
your neighbor, your neighbor in Georgia. Yeah,
ain't my neighbor and shit. Anyway, we get the warm up out the way, Felicia. We brought you onto the show for obviously you are a Black woman that we respect highly, and you are also a Black woman who happens to be a nerd. So, getting into kind of the nitty gritty of things, Felicia, can you kind of tell us your experience you had growing up as a blerd while also being a woman, and kind of maybe difficulties you had like in high school, middle school, things like that?
I mean, I feel like my experiences were a bit different than others, especially when it came to high school. So I was in this certain program where we took classes different from the rest of the high school. So we never got to intermingle with the rest of the kids. And that was for 4 years. So I actually were around a bunch of nerds throughout my whole high school career.
That's really
You're
interesting.
like in advanced classes, like advanced placement classes and that kind of stuff.
Yes, like the program was called bioinformatics. So
Oh
we
wow!
specialize in a bunch of sciences.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
I'm a grown ass man in my 40s, and even I don't know what that means. So okay, more power
Big
to you.
brain.
Yeah, it's a
Damn.
lot.
Big brain, big brain. Okay.
You were smart. I know you're that smart. Damn.
Yeah,
Make me
yeah,
feel
but yeah,
bad.
we knew you were smart, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Jesus.
so because of that, like that's all I really ever knew is other nerd friends because we are all pretty much into the same thing. So
Right on.
So did
I
you
don't
not
know.
intermingle with like the other students at like let's say football games or house parties and things like that, or you kind of just like kept to your small group of people?
I pretty much kept to myself.
Interesting.
Um,
Hmm.
I've always been a real big introvert, so I don't do much. Even now to this day, my habits are pretty much the same.
That's all right.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with
Nothing wrong
that.
with that at all.
That's
When you were growing up though, and you're closer to Charlie's age, you're obviously you're around, you're in your 20s. You're a very young lady. But were there other people that were into the same interest, had a similar interest as you, as far as like anime and manga, things like that at the time?
Yes, but rarely any of them were women.
Yeah.
Believe maybe one or two from grammar school all the way to high school that I can think of that were really into like anime.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's funny. So with the recent episodes we did with TBC, it was a big thing of a lot of people like hid their nerddom or whatever to kind of avoid like criticism or bullying or whatever. And from what obviously the big nerd, I think it was in a group a couple months ago where guys were going crazy about the fact that black women didn't want me growing up, or I couldn't find black women nerds or things like that. Um, do you think maybe a lot of women at that point in time were either kind of hiding their nerddom, or was just dudes not really looking or kind of taking the approach to get out there at that point in time?
I mean, I feel like, hold on. Maybe this is gonna be an edit because I gotta think about this.
You good? You
Yeah,
good?
okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Because it's interesting. Even in my high school experience, I had like a handful of female nerds I knew, and maybe like I like a minuscule amount of those happen to be black women. And even those that happen to be black women were tend to be like it's military, so they tend to be like mixed with Asian or something else that kind of like got them into like anime and things like that. It's part of their heritage a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very really got to see like it wasn't until I really got in the group where I started to meet a lot of black women who were like nerds like that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
Right.
it's the same for me as well. I didn't know there were as many of us out there until I got on social media. Because, like I said, I didn't really have that many interactions with other black nerds.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I guess the easier question for you would be when you would interact. So, did you interact with a lot of other women outside of school, like in your neighborhood, maybe, or your family?
Yes, yes.
So, how did they view you being a nerd or into that stuff, or did you not make that like a public knowledge type deal?
Oh no, it's always public. I mean, they accepted it. They may not have understood, but
Mm-hmm.
they've always accepted
So
it
you,
without any questions asked.
that's
And
interesting.
I
So you
think that's
never felt like they kind of like tease you for it.
yeah.
Huh?
So you never felt like they tease you about it or anything like that.
Oh no, not at all.
Interesting.
That's great.
My bad. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead. My bad.
No, I was gonna say that's amazing. I like that the idea that you actually were your family, like you said, they didn't necessarily understand it, but they weren't condemning you for what they didn't understand. That happens all the times, especially in our community, where if it's something that we don't understand, oftentimes out of trying to protect our young, we'll do everything we can to make them fit in as much as possible, whatnot, so we don't get lost in the shuffle. If we're worried that they're going to stand out or be ostracized because for being different, we'll do everything we can to try to make someone fit in, and that your family wasn't worried about that. They actually were backing you, even though they didn't quite understand what your interests were. That's great. I love hearing that.
It's interesting for because again with the TBC episode, us talking for men in particular when it comes to being a nerd, and like, I guess in high school for Ethan more so than me and Michael was that it was kind of like a taboo and seen as something like you should be into something cooler like athletics and things like that. And then within the Black community, it's like amplified even more because it's like, all right, we're the trendsetters and things like that, and anime isn't cool to us, so let's not do that. We need to go rap, hoop, do whatever.
Absolutely.
So I found it very interesting that you felt comfortable just kind of being open and being yourself and expressing what you were into. I found that's refreshing for one, and then it's amazing.
Yeah, you were ahead of the curve. Yeah, you were way ahead of the curve on that. That's
Definitely
great.
blessed.
Yeah, that's great. And because I'm always like I'm probably I guess a full generation older than you guys. And when I was in high school, Toonami hadn't come out yet. So
Ethan, you're not that much older than me, sir.
I am 40. I am 40. We're not going to reveal Felicia's age, obviously, but I am. Let's just say that I'm older than her. Older than her. Leave it at that. But Toonami wasn't around when I was in high school. It came out when I was in college, like when I was my freshman year of college. So it was so anime in the West, as far as the States, was very much more of a niche thing. And if you were a nerd that was into anime, it was like anybody could be a nerd. But if you were a nerd that was like into anime and into manga, those things, like and openly into comics, like you weren't just a nerd, you were like a nerd within a nerd kind of thing. So it was like Inception level 3 or something. So it was very, very hard to find people that were into that kind of stuff when I was growing up. Especially women.
Another question, Felicia: did you have a lot of female friends, or did a lot of your men friends tend to be men?
A lot of my friends tend to be male. I have a few female friends, but honestly, they have been the same friends that I've had since high school.
Oh, right on.
Okay. Yeah. And with these friends you made, did you meet a lot of these friends younger? Like, are they like your female friends you met early on, or did you get them and maybe, I don't know if you went to college or anything like that later on? Did you meet them there? Or?
Pretty much mostly during either grammar school or high school.
That's interesting. Okay. You
So,
loyal to the soil.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, but when I'm not sure if we actually covered roughly the age, like roughly how old were you when you first got into, some of these things as far as like anime and manga and things like that?
Had to be like 11, maybe 12.
Okay. I feel like that's a little higher on average than most people. I feel like that are like most nerds I hear about. It's like 7, like it's really young, like you're watching cartoons and things like that. So I found that's
if you can access, like if you can find the anime and things like that, it may be. But I mean, it's still it's before high school though. Like 11 and 12, that's like middle school. So
yeah, that's rather interesting for me.
But how old were you then, Dev, when you first found anime, got into anime itself, that you know of?
So for me, it wasn't anime itself. Well, I got into anime, but mine started off with video games. So I got my first game ever was a Dragon Ball Z Budokai game, and I got that. When I was 7 years old. Yeah. I knew what it was. My stepdad was kind of a pseudo nerd, or he watched Dragon Ball Z. Like a lot of Black dudes, they watch Dragon Ball Z. So he's like explaining it to me as we're playing or whatever, and I found out it was a show later on as I got into it. So I kind of knew the story from playing the story modes and things like that.
Right.
But that's when I was 7. But even before that, I was still watching like cartoons, watching Toonami or whatever.
Right on, yeah, because it was accessible. Because I know most for obviously in the West, a big part was, I know both Felicia and Dev, you guys are both fans of like Pokemon, and maybe even Digimon or whatnot. I'm not sure, but like those shows were on mainstream TV in the West.
I mean, when you actually put it that way, it would be younger. So I remember watching those Saturday morning cartoons, not realizing at the time that it was anime that I was watching.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think I like the term anime or the concept of it. I didn't really know what it was. I thought everything was a cartoon because it was animated. Right. So to me, everything's cartoons.
Because Sailor Moon, I saw Sailor Moon when I was before I knew. That was one of the earlier ones that I ever saw. Ever hit the screen that I was aware of, and it was called Japan. And I remember the first way it was referred to as Japanimation. It wasn't called anime at the time. And then later on, I got the real terms as far as anime kind of thing. Yeah, and then manga later on.
Well, Felicia, I guess this is the heavy hitting question. We got to this really quick. Dating. So, what are some difficult? What are some pros and cons you had being like a black nerd dating in there? I don't know. Are you from like a city type area? Or are you more rural area?
City.
City. So I guess you have a lot more options when it comes to people and diversity and people around you. What were some pros and cons about that?
Um, Honestly, the only cons I've ever had is just dating somebody that didn't hold the same interests, so they didn't quite understand
Mm.
why I loved it as much as I did. Um, it is a lot more difficult when you have a partner who just doesn't share your passion. They don't want to sit there and spend the time with you to do the things that you love.
Preach,
Mm-hmm.
preach. Yeah.
Um, Honestly, that's pretty much the only con I've ever had as far as dating goes, because honestly, I usually do date people that are nerds as well.
Sure. Sure.
So I'm assuming with a city area there are just a lot more nerds around, especially well, men nerds in general. We've already said there's like a larger populace of them.
Right.
But was there like did you find difficulty finding black nerd, or just I don't know if you were perfectly looking for black nerds in general, or just did you have difficulty finding nerds in the city area?
Not at all.
Okay. That's what I figured. That's what I figured.
Yes, it's a different. I like it's a different type of struggle. Like for guys, I know for me it very much was hard to find, especially nerds of color, blerds. You know, it was, gosh, it's hard, really hard.
For me, it's really interesting because there's a lot more nerds than ever in like my age group, and a lot of us kind of watched it together. But a lot of the women that I meet, like even today, I went to go see Candyman today, and a friend of mine that went with us, there's two girls, and one of my friends, if you would look at her or speak to her, if you knew her, you would never think she's into anything nerd related. But we're watching trailers for the movie, and she's like, "Oh, I love Venom. I can't wait to watch Venom." Or she's like, "Oh, Shang-Chi looks like it'd be cool," but she's not a nerd per se, but she's into it's because it's so cool to watch nerd stuff or like superheroes and things like that are cool. She's more willing to like watch it and like think it's okay, even though she's not like it's not a big thing for her. So I feel like it's an advantage nowadays to where you can find partners that may not necessarily love what you love, but they find certain things about it cool, so they'll like watch certain things with you. Like Felicia said, like they'll participate in things like that with you.
Absolutely, absolutely. In part, I mean that's what's happened also in more recent years is how because nerd culture and blerd culture has become much more mainstream and more acceptable. So you can be a blerd and not be like the stereotypical, stereotype what a person thinks a blerd would be. Someone that's running around looking like back in my day. If you were anything remotely like a blerd, you were Urkel, and that was it. And blerds come in all shapes and sizes. We don't have to look like Urkel to be a blerd.
So Felicia, how much did you encounter gatekeeping when it comes to the dudes you were dating? When you
Oh,
brought up that you were a nerd, I feel like it's a big thing.
too many times to be honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just even outside of the dating community, when you find a nerd guy friend who finds out that you watch anime, they immediately unload a million questions on you. Have you watched this? Who's your favorite character for that? And like, I'm all for discussing shows and sharing my love for everything, but I hate to just be constantly quizzed.
Right.
It's the difference between having a conversation about a show and being quizzed about it. And it happens still now, constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the idea of you being put on trial, like you say that you're a fan of something and someone doesn't believe you, they're almost calling you a liar, which is pretty horrible. And I was talking to your significant other earlier today, and he was telling me how you actually you've probably seen like at least 3 times as many anime and read 3 times as many manga as he has. And I was like, oh my God, because he's read and seen more than I have. And I've seen quite a bit myself.
He ain't like a single one of them either.
Right.
Hated them all. But yeah.
I thought so from my personal experience, I didn't know that was as big of an annoyance for women nerds until I got to the group, and it was like I saw like a lot of posts about it, and I was like, damn, I didn't know that was a big thing. Because for me, because I didn't know a lot of women nerds, I felt like I was excited about having the conversation about stuff. Because again, I couldn't.
I was excited.
There's nobody in that age range for me to have the conversation with, except for either older people like Ethan, who kind of grew up with it or like the origins of it, or a lot of younger people where it's cool now, so they're watching. So people in my age group, I'm like, oh damn, you're like in the anime. So like, so all right, now I gotta figure out like how deep are you, like casually into it? Are you watching more weird stuff? So I'm like asking questions, but again, at least for me, I wasn't asking questions in the sense of like checking your card to see your qualifications.
But there's a difference though, Dev. I'm sure Felicia can attest to this. You can tell when someone's like getting into a conversation with you, trying to figure out how much you know as far as like a conversation, like, you know, let's get into this deep. Like, I mean, how far can I? I'm going down this far. Can you hang with me as I go down this far? As opposed to, I don't know if what you're saying is actually true. If you're a poser, let me check you at the gate, make sure you can answer these. Like you said, I'm quizzing you on this stuff. There's a difference, and I've talked to you before. You and I have had conversations getting deep into stuff. I know how you talk. There's a difference what you're doing, Dev, as opposed to what someone is doing as far as actual gatekeeping.
So, Felicia, are there like key phrases or like tones for you, like that would like trigger you when it came to certain situations like that?
Yeah, some people just outright know, just they'll straight up say, I just want to make sure I actually knew what it's about. Because a lot of girls will front for
Wait, is your mic are you hearing us still?
Hold on one second. I'm having an issue.
We can hear you clearly now.
Be fine. She'll come right back. Okay.
You should go back. Yeah. You can
Side note, Ethan, Candyman, watch it. I highly recommend it. 9 out of 10. Okay. It's amazing. Jordan Peele has not missed. I love that movie with a passion.
You said 9 out of 10?
9 out of 10.
All right. Okay. Now, is it anything at all related to like the original one with Tony Todd?
So it was interesting enough. Initially, when I watched it, I thought it was going to be like a remake of the original one, but it's literally like a direct sequel of the first one in a sense. So you take a lot of aspects and plot points from the first movie and bring it over to this one.
Okay.
That's all I'll say about it. But it's Jordan Peele doesn't miss
Candyman.
Yes,
the current one.
I need y'all to all to watch it so I can talk about it with somebody, because I like watched again. I watched it with my female friends today that they watch it as a scary movie, but they're not horror fans or like in a nerd culture like that. So I can't like gush like I want to without like being weird about it. So I'm like,
had they seen the original?
No, they did not. So they're asking me questions about the original.
I don't like scary movies. I'm not a horror fan. I'm scared of scary movies.
Are you? So, but the thing is, because I know you're like me. Like your favorite game is Witcher 3. So is it that it's just the movies themselves you're not a fan of? Is it when it's horror and other mediums? Are you okay with it, like horror games or horror manga, that kind of stuff? Like,
I like horror games and horror manga. It's just horror movies.
Horror movies, okay.
Let's see. I think you like this one, Felicia, because it's a horror movie, but it's more because it's a Jordan Peele movie. It's more of a
cerebral
movie, cerebral, or more so like a piece on society, or obviously he's going to deal with like Black people and like Black lives and Black situations. But this one more focuses on the stereotypes and kind of like how do I put this? I don't know how to put it. It's like it's like Black. So again, it takes place. Oh, I know for sure Ethan would like this for the fact it takes place in Chicago. Candyman in general, like the whole character in general, takes place in like a ghetto of Chicago. And the common theme about it is kind of like gentrification and the process about that and how it can help or not, it'll ruin Black society or whatever. It's Jordan Peele, so he takes a lot of like liberties talking about Black
it's very poignant in that way.
But it's not overbearing and it's not too much. It's just enough. Because again, I watched it with 2 white women. One of the white women who's very much Southern, like she's progressive, but not in the sense of like crazy progressive. That makes any sense. So they're watching this and they're enjoying it, all the jokes, and he's making Black and white. Like there were 2 white women and they're enjoying this and eating it up, and they loved the movie. So I'm just like, this was he did his thing with this one.
Okay. All right.
I'll watch it off the strength of your recommendation only.
Oh,
I appreciate
so that means, Deb, if she does not like it, you owe her a refund.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I got you. Hey, I paid $6 for it, student discount, but
Dang, man.
I got you.
Oh, $6. Wow. I can't remember the last time I bought anything for $6. Maybe a bottle of water.
Oh, I'm watching more movies now.
And also, you said
Yeah,
it was filmed in Chicago. If you look in the background, you see Otis East walking around playing basketball.
Or never mind. Me not do that. I almost made a joke that I feel like Otis would have pissed off if I made that joke. So me not make that joke.
He'll be all right. He'll be all right.
Stan Otis would have got pissed if I made that joke. But let me not make that joke. Oh, Jesus Christ. Where the hell was I? gotta collect myself again. Felicia, I think we were talking about the gatekeeping for sure was the last thing we spoke about and dropped on. Interesting question. I can't talk today for that reason. Long day. Do you see women gatekeep at all, or is this something that you only kind of see as central to men, in a sense?
Oh no, I've definitely seen women gatekeep before, but it's only been in nerd groups.
Yeah, it's become much more prevalent too. I think what happened also because blerd culture and nerd culture has become more ubiquitous, especially with all the mainstream superhero movies, things like that. There's like elitist mentality sometimes amongst the nerds, and gatekeeping has become much more prevalent than it was before.
And I get it. When you're as a community, it's kind of what black people in general. It's kind of I think that's why black people kind of harmonize with being a nerd so much. Is when your community's attacked for something for so long and told that it's not cool to be like that or you're not supposed to look like that, and not everybody's on the wave, you're like, hey, whoa. Are you really one of us? Or are you just fronting because it's popular now?
Right.
Rather be like black hairstyles or black music or things like that. You're like, oh, I listen to Eminem. Things like that, where I can understand why people would do that, where they don't, not saying it's not an inclusive energy, but there's a lot of groups or just people I know that they're kind of like really reserved and kind of cautious about accepting people into like their nerd area or energy, if that makes any sense.
But so there's two things on that though. One thing is I think it probably happens, and I can't speak to this to the fullest extent. Felicia probably better than I, but I feel like there's probably more gatekeeping with female blerds than male blerds. We're much more likely to doubt that a cool female blerd is in fact a blerd. We're like, that's so unlikely. Yeah, we males have had to earn our stripes through all kinds of suffering over the years, and women haven't had to do that. Therefore, I don't trust this attractive woman that she's actually a blerd at all. I know from my own friends that are blurs that they kind of do that kind of stuff, have that weird machismo, and I think also it's the idea that we feel we're almost like we've gone through so much. Like you mentioned too, Deb, the idea that as a community or society, or as a community, we've had to go through so much, we've had to endure so much that we want to make sure anyone else that tries to hang with us has endured a lot, has suffered too. If you haven't suffered like we've suffered, you can't be with us in a way. As opposed to be like, hey, come on board.
I understand in a sense, but I feel like also you're potentially scaring away more people that could get into it.
That's the problem. Yes. You should want to actually be more inclusive, have new blood. That's a great thing to have. You shouldn't be gatekeeping. If someone doesn't know something, it's like, okay, that's fine. Let me instruct you. Let me kind of inform you. Let's work together in this. Yeah.
It's an interesting slight tangent, not really a huge tangent. Keeping that same note with kind of going from the nerd community more into the black community, because again, you're a black woman, so I'm interested in getting your opinion on this. When you start to get into things like hairstyles, right? And a lot of women would get something like box braids or things of that nature. I don't wear those hairstyles at all. I was never really critiqued about wearing my hair a certain type of way, so I don't really have a lot of opinion on it per se. But in my thought processes, when it comes to things like people feel like a culture is being appropriated, for me, my question is it an appropriation or is it an appreciation? Because when you look at like the black community, we're into nerd shit heavy, and that's that arrives in Japanese culture. So we take a lot of things from we make things cool. So we'll take a lot of things from other cultures and make them cool, but then be really quick to jump on other people for taking our stuff because they think it's cool because we made it look cool. Right. Felicia, where do you kind of stand on that when it comes to like more appropriation or like your meaning of it in general?
Oh, you're gonna have to give me a moment.
That was a good question. That was a good.
It's a big one.
Definitely hit you with those questions sometimes. Like, wow, what in the world? You were in college. You were definitely in college.
Right.
Yeah.
You're the first Black woman we've had on, so I'm like, these are questions I gotta get them off.
Is that true? Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, we have
Don't load them all on me. I'm the wrong person.
No, you're doing great. You're doing much better than me and Dev. So yeah.
But I'll see you post on Facebook and certain like I respect the way you go about communicating different things a lot. That's why I wanted you on to begin with. Yeah. And try to pick your brain on stuff.
I agree.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you respect your opinion. Yeah.
I feel like just one of the big differences is what is the word I'm looking for? Whether or not, well, I can't say we're not profiting off of it, because people definitely are, from artwork to cosplay designs. Honestly, I'm not too sure. I really never thought about it much.
Yeah.
Because don't get me wrong, I love my people with the passion. That's why I'm working with something called Blerd Approved Entertainment. But I feel like there's somewhat of a hypocrisy within our community with certain stuff like that, where we hold our culture so close to our chest, obviously because we have a lot of it and we didn't really have anything we got over here. But then we hold ours close, but then like reach and dabble in others and bring it over. I.e., being like, you listen to a lot of rappers, there has been a Dragon Ball Z Super Saiyan bar, a million anime references all over to movies and media, things like that. You look at stand-up comic, like Black people, again, we make things look cool and we do that, but I don't, it makes me kind of sad that we can't keep that same energy when it comes to people wanting to, like, if we have the coolest stuff, people are going to see and participate in the cool stuff going on. Now, it's one thing if they participate and say they invented it, then I'm like, all right, I understand the hate and the anger, but if they just want to be a part of it, it's weird. And then we're only like that about certain people.
So I think part of it too is the like you're saying, what's the difference between appropriation and appreciation? You hit the nail on the head there as far as if someone is trying to pass it off that they was their original idea, that they're plagiarizing and someone else's work or art form, what have you, and they're saying that it was theirs from the start, as opposed to someone sampling something. Like, for example, Jay-Z, sampled all kinds of different genres. He sampled stuff from the Beatles before and used it, but it was known that he was doing that. He wasn't trying to say, I came up with this original beat myself, it's mine and mine alone. But at the same time, there are times, of course, like if a white artist tries to use something from like a Michael Jackson song, whatnot, and will be very like sacred with it. Like, you can't touch anything we've ever done. And I don't think that it is fair. I do think that can't be hypocritical. If someone else is trying, another culture is trying to celebrate your culture openly, I do think that it is almost like gatekeeping in a way, trying to tell them not to do that. And yeah, we are guilty of it. I mean, anime is just one example of things that we love to, appreciate / appropriate from other cultures as a Black community. So I overall, like Felicia was saying earlier, I do think the best thing we can do is try to embrace any and all that want to learn more about our culture and share it too, and as opposed to whether it be a blerd culture, Black culture, whatever it is, we should all try to live in the joy together, as opposed to being holding it at ransom. If that makes sense.
Exactly. Felicia, I think. Go ahead, Felicia. My bad. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like one of the big differences, though, is when it comes to Black culture, it's usually seen as ghetto or obscene when a Black person does it, but it is celebrated when it is appropriated.
Yeah.
Understandable. I get what you mean.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. And with the movie, if y'all saw La La Land, in that movie,
No.
Okay, I mean, it was a movie that almost beat Moonlight for Best Picture. A movie starring a Black lead in 3 different phases of his life. But anyways, the thing about that movie, people were upset about that movie because the lead is a white man that is like, super passionate about jazz, and lots of folks are saying it's weird to see someone, essentially the lead is trying to appropriate in a music form created by Black folks. And I was kind of like, well, I don't feel like, I mean, I get where you're coming from, I do. But at the same time, he's never trying to say that he invented it. I know there are plenty of white people that love jazz, that play different types of music. And I don't think he's a villain for enjoying something that another culture made. And in the movie, it shows him, of course, playing with various Black artists too. So it is a weird gray area that probably should be explored more and talked about a little bit more, I think. So I'm right there with you, Dev.
Yeah, especially with music, I'm a big proprietor of music of all different types of genres, cultures, things like that. And one thing with American music is that Black people influence every popular form of it, rather it be country, jazz, rock and roll. Like, we were big proponents of the way it's played today. But outside of rap music, which is something that's dominated by us, we don't really get a lot of credit for that stuff, which is why you see artists like going onto the like countryside. You see people like what's his name? Chuck Berry, or people like that are like legends in that musical field, but they don't really get a lot of credit for that unless you have a documentary of something like Cadillac Records that specifically talk about their story. And he was getting stuff snatched by the Beatles. Was it Beatles? No, the Rolling Stones, I think, were the people that snatched his music. He's got a lot of his music stolen. But yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing is too, like Elvis, got Elvis Presley got lots of his moves and his swagger from listening to Black rock and rollers too. But the part of what happens oftentimes too is that music, when Black people, we're getting we got crazy tendence here, but the idea was back in the day, lots of Black musicians and artists were doing different things, and they kept evolving with their art, and which is great. This is fine. But as we transcend different genres, other cultures were using what we had done before in that genre, and they were trying to make it their own essentially, which is fine. But it's, again, like you said earlier, Dev, it's the idea of which appreciation and appropriation, not trying to pass off someone else's work as your own. That's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
Remember where you came from, essentially.
Literally, know your roots. I guess, Ethan, this is your time to shine. We have a new segment, Felicia. I don't know if you know that we kind of stole from the TBC guys. We got their blessings for it, so don't. We
appropriate. We appropriate and appreciate it. Yeah.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, Mike and Mr. Robert, Mr. Oldhead. We love those guys. We have our, I guess, would you rather or either or. We still we're workshopping names for it, but we made this Ethan segment to kind of shine.
Yeah, so I'm calling it either or, because I know would you rather is like a game that people play it. So I'm just calling it either or. Dev and Felicia, either you spend the weekend in a cabin at Forest Lake when you know Jason Voorhees could be out there running amok, or you spend the weekend on Elm Street trying to catch a good night's sleep when you know Freddy Krueger is running amok.
Damn. Oh, Elm. I could stay awake.
So a weekend in Elm Street, right?
Yeah, weekend. I could stay awake. I could do it.
No, it's a week. It's a week.
Oh, a week.
A week.
Oh.
A week on Elm Street and a week in the cabin. A week.
Keep in mind, I'm pretty sure it's 7 days of you not sleeping. You start to dream while you're awake at that point. That happened in the movies, by the way. That's the whole thing. Nancy tried to do that for like 2 days and she was done. Didn't work anymore. I would honestly take my chances with Jason, because I know me with sleep. Like, you know me, if I'm tired, I'll try to fight through it. But as soon as I sit still, it's boom, I'm out. Like, I'll be half asleep, half awake, and it takes that split second for Freddy to be like, "All right, come here."
Yeah, that's the whole point. The thing is too is that Freddy will manipulate you so you think you're still awake, and it turns out you've been asleep for a while. You have no idea. Yeah.
If it's just me, it's fine. But if it's me and somebody else, I just gotta be faster than them, and I can get saved. When it comes to Jason.
So if it's a week, I'll have to go with Jason as well, because.
Right. Yeah, that's the logical choice. The thing about it is, in the end, as badass and powerful as Jason is, he's still a dude more or less, and he's not stealthy. He has to get to you. And if you're cautious and looking out for him, you can kind of see where he's at and run. And what the first like 8 movies, he couldn't run. He was like just walking around everywhere. So odds are you can survive him. Freddy is like basically God in Dreamland. The only advantage you have is being awake. He can't get you at all if you're awake. So
I will say with Jason, I think later, like I think it's the third one. He dies in the second one. The third one, he's a zombie pretty much. So at that point, he has like supernatural powers where he's walking, but he's somehow like teleporting around or whatever. Like I don't know. Did you play the Friday the 13th game, Ethan?
You mean the newer one, right? On the PS like 3 and 4 and stuff?
Yeah.
No, I've seen some of the plays. I played the original one on Nintendo. Again, old. I'm old head on this show. I played the original one on Nintendo back in the day, forever ago. And that's Jesus Christ. But yeah, so what does he do in the new game?
So in the new one, they give him abilities like he has an ability to where it's essentially like a teleport kind of sort of, but it's like you go into like a first person perspective and you're like zipping around the map and he just like teleports in like different spots. But he can like show up, which I'm like makes sense because you can only walk with them as you're playing, but you can teleport around the map.
Right. But they've done that. I brought this up because of Candyman, in honor of Candyman, Jordan Peele. But it seems like he's even Mike Myers on some level. All these dudes have become supernatural. Obviously, Freddy Krueger is from the start. But anyway, okay, that was the either or for this week.
Don't get me started on Candyman again. I'm doing a review soon.
No, yeah, we'll do after Felicia. So after Felicia sees Candyman, and whether or not she likes it, we'll definitely do either a scathing review or kind of getting into a review with her.
Oh, it's gonna be good. Trust me, I have 100% confidence that
he's calling a shot, man.
I'm very confident.
You know who she dates. You know who she dates.
Exactly. I told him, I'm like, hey, all powerful hate lord, you're gonna like this movie. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Very minimum. I think I'm gonna guess Otis will give it like an 8.
But see, I felt that way. I felt real confident that he would like a show. Lo and behold, it's trash.
Yeah, that's his catchphrase. Trash. Yeah. When your catchphrase is trash, that's to tell you everything you need to know about a person.
Know what he likes though. He's he's not big on jump scares. He's not big on being scared. For him, it's very like he likes deep thought shit. At least if I'm wrong, please let me know. You know him better than I do. He likes like big thought-provoking stuff. And this movie is very like it more goes into the ideal of what Candyman is to Black people, while also as a horror movie type deal. Like he goes from a serial killer or like a ghost to more like a ghost / ideal.
Okay,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, don't say too much more because it sounds interesting. But
yeah. It's a lot deeper than you would think it is.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check it out then because I know. Correct me if I'm wrong too, Felicia. We're putting all this on Felicia, but isn't your boyfriend isn't like he loves Hannibal, like one of his favorite movies is like the Silence of the Lambs, and he loves that show Hannibal too, which is obviously much more of a psychological horror than it is like a jump scare horror. So
yep, you are absolutely right. I mean, his favorite character is Lelouch. That's
right. Lelouch is very. I mean, he's basically a psychological killer too in a way. So
yeah, I'm waiting. I'm sitting here in the cut waiting because I may see that movie again.
Okay.
I ain't gonna lie. I may go back to the theater and see it again.
I might fly there to Georgia to watch it with you.
Hey, come on down, brother. We'll find. Hey, just don't stop at towns. Just you want to drive all the way here. Don't stop at a random town.
Yeah, don't ask your neighbors for directions.
Yeah, I got you. All right, guys. Well, this has been another episode of Then and Now. Thank you to the lovely Felicia.
Thank you so much
for coming on. Can you tell the people where they can find you at?
You can find me on Instagram at inkqueen_, and also make sure you follow the page. Make sure you follow the page. I cannot say it. Oh my God. Make sure you follow the page, Blerd Approved Entertainment.
Yeah, we got it out. Yeah, y'all follow Blerd Approved Entertainment. We have shows damn near all week, if not every day. We have some kind of show, streams, things like that coming out. And very, very soon, I'm not gonna, give out too much information. We're gonna have some nice content or products coming out for you guys that you guys may enjoy. Also, from a couple of videos, I'll say follow Echelon G Novels at Instagram. They have a lot of great content there. I'm customer myself and stuff. Rated 2 more the Ipswich and Springboard yesterday. Loving the content. You guys are pumping that stuff out. This has been another episode of Then and Now.